Does that say 6?
Yeah, it does.
It's 6.
Yes, ma'am. I better go, but you don't start till I do. So. It is 6 o'clock, and we are opening our workshop for this evening at the Town of Trophy Club. It is February the 24th, 2025, and we have a full quorum. As you know, our councilperson, Luann Olam, resigned last month, so you'll continuously see an empty seat there. So we want to call this meeting for a very specific reason. Tonight is a workshop. We use workshops for an opportunity for those up here on the dais to interact with each other, because honestly, we don't get to do that in a environment where we can just say what we want to say and maybe how we want to say it. But I do want to open this evening's workshop, which is a presentation, discussion of land use infrastructure and a site layout options developed for the small area plan project. And why this is important is I know many of you, both those in this room and those who are listening, we have a strategic strategy, business plan that you can find online. And it's excellent because this is why we're here. We're looking at support businesses, which is a pillar. We're looking at an objective to develop and create successful businesses, areas fostering a unique sense of place. And we're at the initiative of looking at what goes on. It's the small site plan right up here at State Highway 114. That's why we're here. And to do that, about 3 months ago, EDC went out and looked at a consultant to help us look at what this site could become. And you all know that we did interviews, workshops, and others. So we're at a place now tonight to hear from the consultants, but also to hear from the council as you've looked at this packet. And I would like to open the discussion by inviting the team, McAdams team, to come forward, if you would, please. Randy. We have Randy Riviera, Jameson Pinson, Melissa, and Chris. If you will come up here, and they're going to be here for just a few minutes, but I've asked them to open the session with one question. When you look at the site plan and all the council, you have it in front of you, and if you're online, you can look at it as well. We have two concept plans presented to us by McAdams. From your consulting experience, knowledge, what are the upsides to these site plans, and what are the downsides? That's all I want you to do. You're not going to go into a lot of detail, but that will give us a context from which we can then talk. Thank you. And you are Randy.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Would you introduce your team, please,
Yes.
again, so we won't forget?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, my name is Randy Rivera, planner with McAdams. And tonight we also have Jameson Pinson, our Director of Landscape Architecture, and Marissa Brewer, another planner with McAdams on my team, and then Chris Branham from Catalyst Commercial, who performed the market study and is working on currently the feasibility study.
And we cannot forget that Chris is a Trophy Club resident.
And yes, very, very true. And so tonight's presentation, we're going to touch on the kind of the attributes of the plans, and then some of maybe the perceived, kind of negative or just things that we want to raise to your attention that might be concerning on the plans or just different. And we want to get into that. We do have a slide deck to kind of get us started, because the feedback that we received from the community through all the different methods of community engagement informed this plan tonight. And so I want to do an overview of that briefly, and Marissa will present on that to kind of do that to set the stage for Jameson to walk through the plan in great detail. But I will say, just on a high level, plan number 1 keeps all the infrastructure in place. It has really only 2 catalyst sites for potential redevelopment. And so those are some of the benefits to that. It's more in keeping with the existing infrastructure. And Plan Number 2 does propose a change to the infrastructure to create and make a great place for the community to come together. And it also has a higher tax base from a non-residential use perspective. There's more square footage on Plan Number 2 from a retail, office, and restaurant standpoint. And Plan Number 2 also has 3 potential redevelopment catalyst sites instead of 2. So there's trade-offs. There's trade-offs between both concepts that we're evaluating tonight, and we are grateful for your input. We met with EDC last week. We got some great input or the week before last, sorry. We got some great input from that board. And so together with that input and tonight, council, your input, we're looking forward to how we can really tweak these plans to get them in the position of everyone is mostly in support of that. I do believe that through a planning process, it's impossible to make every single person in the community happy, but we're going to find success in, meeting the majority of those goals of what the majority of the community did want to see on this plan, as well as council's input. So I'll go ahead and get started.
And I'll add just real quick on that the purpose of tonight's, agenda item here is not for us to make final decisions, right? That's not at all what's going on. It is to receive feedback. It's our opportunity to really talk about this publicly here at our council meeting, and we will continue to refine the plan. We will continue to work on solutions and different alternatives. That will be the desire of the council, and we will continue to get feedback from the public as well as we go through this process. So we are in no way done. With it, this is part of the process of receiving input along the way. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon.
All right. So this is just a preview or timeline of what we've already done thus far is kicking off this summer and meeting with the stakeholders between September through November. And January, we were synthesizing the feedback data and working on these scenarios to present to you tonight. So like I said, EDC was on the 13th, and then tonight we are here. Looking forward to this input as we work through this process. So the 3 types of community engagement methods that we underwent were meeting with all of the property owners. There was one that we were not able to meet with, but we met with every other one, all the other ones except for one. And so that was good that we were able to get in touch with at least a representative from one of those properties. Within the 54-acre area. Okay, so it's just the property owners within this area. It's not property owners outside of that area, because those were invited to come in through the open house meeting that was advertised on the town's website and things like that. Marissa will talk about those details. The third method was the online survey that went out that had a lot of participation, and she'll also go through that detail as well. So I'll pass it over to her to speak to.
Hi, my name is Marissa Brewer. As Randy stated, I'm a planner with McAdams. So just to kind of touch on the outreach approaches that we did, we first met with the stakeholder meetings. Some we met virtually, and then some we met at Town Hall. We sent an email out. We asked them if we could meet with them just to give them some questions and ask for their feedback back. A lot of them touched on kind of creating this place where people would come to their businesses, but also increasing the area to be a place where people would stay for a little while and hang out. They really liked the idea of the connectivity, so where people could just walk down from their neighborhood to go to the restaurants or hang out with their families on the weekends and have that open space where they could gather. A lot of the stakeholders also said that they like to see kind of those more small businesses come into their area. They obviously want to make sure that their business is thriving, and then they also have other places like coffee shops or retail to kind of hang out, go shop, and then go eat. So that was kind of the stakeholder approach. So the online survey approach, as Randy was saying, we had a QR code posted up at Town Hall during the voting season. So when residents were come in, they had the opportunity to go ahead and scan that QR code. We also had a promotional video that went out so people could see kind of what the small area plan was about and how to get involved in that plan and decision making. So when we sent out this survey, we created a list of questions just to kind of kick off, like, what is this plan? What does this mean? And then what are we trying to create? So with leadership, we identified some key themes that this plan is going to be guided by. So we wanted to ask them, what were those themes that spoke out to you? What did you want to see in this area? What did you prioritize? What did you think was weaknesses? What did you think were strengths? And so the same questions were on the online survey. They also carried through to the in-person open house. We got 595 responses, which is about, out of the population, 4.1%, which is relatively good compared to some others, like that's pretty typical as far as response rates go. And so they talked about how they would love to see, kind of a market-driven approach with this area. They kind of said whatever would be supportive with whatever the market would support, they would want to also support. A lot of people said that they really wanted entertainment, dining, and retail. Those were kind of the top approaches that people had picked as their wants within the area. People also really thought that connectivity would help drive people here. A lot of people said that that was the number one weakness, was the issue with infrastructure around the area. So creating that accessibility and connectivity would help them also want to come down here. And then community gathering spaces. So, for example, when you have those open spaces where people can come and sit and hang out, they were also looking for that. So on the survey, they were allowed to have there was a graph chart where you could go and select one answer, and then there's also open responses. So we sorted through all that information, and those were kind of the key elements that we identified through the online survey. And then within the open house, we had about 23 attendants. We had one during the day and then one in the afternoon. So it was a full day of residents allowing to come in and speak to us. So what we found, one of the biggest difference between in the open house versus the online survey was the demand for urban flats. So on the online survey, they were asked, what would you not want to see? And one of the key things was urban flats, but when they came and spoke to us and we got to explain to them kind of the demand that Trophy Club has, so there's about 89% of Trophy Club is single family, and so that demand and letting them know and having that conversation of what this would look like here in Trophy Club and getting to see kind of the level and the scale of what that could look like in their neighborhood, because it doesn't look the same maybe in downtown Dallas. It would be a different scale, a different type of architectural elements within Trophy Club that we could offer. So a lot of them were saying that they were in support of a 55 up, a kind of more work unit type housing. But they also said another weakness that they saw was the connectivity. So having that connectivity through infrastructure within the area. They wanted to create these places where people could have a strong dining retail experience. And so with that, you want to bring everyone here. And so that would really draw people here is when you have those extra retail spaces and dining areas. But then also whenever you live within the area and you see it being a vibrant hub, kind of those key themes that we wanted to point out. When you see it kind of being a vibrant area, more people will be attracted to it. So that was kind of the overall approach to how we got feedback from everyone. And then we will pass it on to the different phases approaches of the projects for Jameson.
Good, thank you.
Thank you. My name is Jameson. I'm going to try to walk us through these concept A and concept B. These are concepts. They're long-term plans. They're basically looking at what is the potential for the area long-term. So this could be next 10 to 20 years. It's not something that's necessarily going to happen overnight, but they are potentials that could meet some of the market demand. So this is concept one, and I'm going to kind of try to walk us through these plans, and I'll try to orient you first. Here's Trophy Wood Drive, who we've got right out. This building 7 is where we're sitting tonight. You'll notice building number 9, that's HG Supply, and then 8 Hutchins, so you can kind of use those as your frame of reference as we move about the plan. So concept 1 is the less aggressive of the two concepts. This kind of keeps most of all the infrastructure intact that's currently out there today, specifically Trophy Wood Drive. It also is kind of moving along that more suburban design approach. We've got a little bit more space between the streetscape and the building frontages. There's a lot more surface parking on this particular concept. There are some garages that are going to help serve some of the additional buildings that we've added, but for the most part, just focusing on those vacant land opportunities, and then there are a few redevelopment options on the site. So the first thing you'll notice is coming in the drive. Here, there were quite a bit of feedback that we received at the community meetings about traffic issues. And let's see if I can get this mouse to stay active. Traffic issues. And one of the concerns was vehicles backing up onto 114. They couldn't quite make a decision on how to get into HG Supply or how to decide if they wanted to go to Hutchins or not. So the first thing we've done is look to make a left turn lane into the southern parking lot for HG Supply, so that'll allow people to make an immediate left and come across, rather than sometimes we've seen the maneuver where they drive up to the intersection and make a U-turn and try to work their way back down to there. We've also eliminated the right-in entrance to Hutchins, and we're going to direct people back around to the back side to come in to free up that stacking distance there so we don't have issues there. Previously, we have removed this, but previously we had an offset roundabout. Although that did help move some of the vehicular circulation, it wasn't quite as good of a tool or a solution for the pedestrian connectivity. So we wanted a way to be able to move patrons back and forth across Trophywood a little bit easier. The roundabout made that a little bit harder. So we've gone back to more traditional intersection here with crosswalks. We could dress up that pavement or even a longer length of Trophywood to help kind of slow the cars down. They're coming across a different pavement material, a different look and feel, that letting people know that I'm coming up to the intersection and be looking out for patrons. So we've also kept the median in Trophywood Drive. This could also allow a place of refuge if they can get across the first lane of traffic, but then need to pause to wait for, say, the northbound traffic to pass before they make their way across. Another thing that you'll see on some of the existing roadways is we've kept the existing right-of-way where it's located, and we're going to keep the same number of lanes. So right now you got one northbound and one southbound on Trophywood, and then you've got the stripe zone where they're allowing some parallel parking. Well, we've going to expand that roadway to take advantage of the full right-of-way and add angled parking on the roadway itself. So this on-street parking will help slow down some traffic coming through the area a little bit, but it'll also give a lot more of that teaser parking and then just general parking to support the new buildings and the restaurants that are in development. The next thing that you'll see that's commonality between both of the plans is trying to let Town Hall anchor the development, both just from a sightline situation and making it feel a little bit more connected to this eastern hub of the development and make it feel a little bit more like a town center. We didn't necessarily want to build out the entirety of the lot right here south of where we're at tonight and close off this corner. Let me see if I can get this corner right here. So we're allowing that visibility to lead up the hill to the anchor of versus just if people are driving by and they get past the building, you can turn your head and you see, oh, there's Town Hall. So we've opened that up. That was another piece of the puzzle that a lot of the community was talking about, that they'd like to see some more open space, more gathering space. So right here in front of Building 6, just south of the front steps of Town Hall, this would be the open park/plaza, if you will. Building 6 would be another restaurant/retail building. We're looking at this being a one-story building, but this is starting to kind of frame in this zone between Town Hall, Hutchins, HG, and this new building around this plaza area. We think 2 restaurant concepts could fit in this building, as well as maybe a few small little boutique shops placed in there. And they could have restaurant patios that face out onto the green, place for the kids to kind of play while they're waiting on a table or something. So that is kind of what this south lot would look like redeveloped. So we've got a little bit of parking in the back here, but a lot of Building 6 is going to be served by the G1 garage. That G1 garage would also support town hall parking, as we've removed some of that right here in the front of Building 7, which is town hall, to make better pedestrian connection across here. So the Hutchins sites remains the same, other than we've taken away that front entry to kind of clean up the circulation at the front entry drive. The dentist office remains the same. We've looked at increasing some retail frontage on Plaza Drive with Building 5, as well as the ground floor of Building 2. The upper floors of Building 2/3 could be an urban living opportunity on the upper floors. The ground floor portion of 2 would be more of a retail opportunity there. And then G2 would park this block and also may have some overflow for Building 5. Building number 1 remains the same, as well as all of its existing parking to date. Hutchins, HG Supply remains the same in this configuration. The only thing is we're trying to clean up some of the access to their parking lot. Building 10 remains the same. The townhomes on the backside remains the same. And then we've got a little bit more of a abbreviated east-west connection here on this concept versus the next one that you'll see, with Building 11 kind of being the terminus to this, say, central hub of the commercial retail uses. So Building 11 would have ground floor and restaurant uses possible. Another thing I should point out is we have right here, if you can see, this is the old entrance to the southern parking lot of HG Supply. So we have shifted that entrance to the west, and that's going to allow people, like, let's assume there's some traffic here on the feeder road and you're coming off the off-ramp. You're not quite able to make it over and get into the right lane. This gives you another opportunity a little further down the road to make the turn to either come in and park to go to HG or to circle back into the main portion of the development. So Building 11, the ground floor uses are there, and then it could also have an urban living component on the upper floors, floors 2, 3, and 4. Building 12 here, this is a senior living component that would also be approximately a 4 to 5 story building. And so really you're not going to be seeing these garages much at all. G1 is a standalone garage, but these will have facade treatments with the building themselves hiding the building. As we move back to the west, 13 and 14, the hotel and the hospitals are staying the same. We've kept the townhome concepts the same here along the north, but then looking at the apartment situation here as a potential redevelopment opportunity. And in order to take that down, it would take a considerable relook at that. And so this looks at a senior living facility that is multifaceted, that could have active adult living with all the amenities of pickleball and pools and the whole 9 yards. But then it could also have assisted living or maybe even a hospice situation as you work back toward Building 18. So kind of a full service senior living facility. So this kind of wraps up most of the concept A, but we've looked at kind of redevelopment options here on the far east and on the far west in this concept, and then really taking advantage of the empty lots, which this is where the asphalt parking lot is that supports HG Supply. So the garage is basically built right over the top of that, so it's no further of a walk to get from the G3 garage to the front door of HG Supply. And then another point of clarification here is there was also a lot of concern that this is a pretty messy intersection over here, so we were also looking, maybe there's some cooperation with the neighbors here to bring the road in to our development, also help the traffic counts into the development, but help clean up that intersection and have that single access point to kick you out if you want to get out here and make your way east once you get down the intersection.
Hey, Jameson, I know we'll have opportunity to ask questions, but if you just go back, I want to get in my mind the parking areas 1 and 2.
Yes, sir.
Is that 3 decks? Is it flat? Is it, what, just conceptually, what's the thinking?
Yeah, so I think the G2 garage, we've got some numbers here, and so Mariska can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're both approximately 5 levels, which means it's 4 stories, but you can park on the top.
What? Both of them?
I-
5 levels?
I believe so. Yeah.
One's G1 is 4 stories and G2 is 5 stories.
Levels,
Levels, sorry.
Levels.
Levels.
sorry. So G1 is a 3-story that you can park on top. G2 is a 4-story, you can park on top, so 5 levels. This plan is just color coding the plans by the uses. Here's some of the early takeoff conceptual numbers surrounding this, and some of the restaurant, retail, office space that you're going to be able to add to the area. You can also see by the striped zones on these buildings 2 and 11 where that ground floor situation would take place in that true vertical mixed-use buildings. And then we've got the new buildings 5 and 6 coming online with the rest being some senior living or some urban living situations. This slide right here is focusing on the pedestrian connectivity. So again, another point during the community engagement is how do we get more pedestrian connectivity to this area, and how do we transition people east to west. So not that there's going to be too many people walking up along 114, but there are some gaps there. So with this plan, we'd recommend that we go ahead and fill in the gaps on the 114 frontage sidewalk with the development, as well as looking at this existing water line easement that runs behind these parcels here, that would be a good place to tie in a trail connection that allows a lot of people from the neighborhoods to the north to work their way in along the 12-foot trail connection. During the EDC meeting, we also looked at go ahead and connecting this down the power line easement to make its way all the way to the east side of the connection. East side of the development, I should say. This is an example sketch of what the new Trophywood Drive might look like. So you've got the median to start off with. We'd keep the same northbound and southbound travel lanes, but then incorporating angled parking into that right-of-way. And then, although most of the buildings on Trophywood, it's again kind of a little bit more that suburban development style. They're a little bit more pushed off the right-of-way, but you could potentially push them up if it were to be a possibility. And then that takes us to concept number 2. Are there any quick questions on 1, or would you like me to go to?
Just, again, I'm sorry, the
You've
parking,
got it first.
The angled parking, how many are we talking about spaces?
Do what?
The angled parking you're suggesting?
I do not have an exact count. We've got total parking counts, but I don't know that we have any
I just didn't know if it was
angled
2,
parking.
3, 15, 20.
Oh, about,
So the angled parking that we've added has taken place along the east side of Plaza Drive as well as Trophywood is where it was added.
Rylan, you had a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a note, if you could go back to the slide that showed the sidewalks, just for everyone's edification, the gaps that we do have there on the front, next to the frontage road, that would be overcome eventually by existing development standards as things got developed as well. So that's something that we can count on being there no matter what, but obviously there would need to be, no matter what happens, some special care would have to be taken to try to do something on the backside of the property.
Yeah. We'd like the 12-foot multi-use trail to kind of become that major
Right.
thoroughfare for the pedestrian. Also maybe ability to have golf carts or something that could work down that way.
And the entrance to that is right now currently that people use as cut-through right there at the apartments, I think. Isn't that correct?
That or
Where's that, where's that
may
entrance?
hit this one
Oh,
on the
that's
far
down there.
west side.
Okay, come on, the
Oh,
east.
the other
right
entrance
there.
is where the dumpster,
Yeah.
right there, yeah, and that's private property.
But I thought it started to go back
Well,
west.
but, all right, on the left side, the
Correct.
center, you cannot enter, there's no way to do it because
Okay.
there's a retaining wall there.
Okay,
On the
Yes,
west side, you can enter, and on the east side, you can enter. But you have a retaining wall that prohibits that in that area.
okay, thank you.
yeah. Right here in this location that splits these two properties between the townhome and the new age-restricted stuff, there is a retaining wall situation here, so that would take some rework and a ramp, basically, in that zone.
Thank you.
Then my question on the Trophywood Drive, your concept needs a right-of-way of 106 foot. What's the current right-of-way there?
I think it's 80.
I was going to say 80, not 106. So where's the extra space coming from?
Yeah, the existing's 80. What you see here on this section, it's 80 feet from back of curb to the back of curb.
Got it.
Okay.
So you're doing, so my 106 is building to building.
Yes, so
Got it.
the,
Okay, thank you.
yeah, the current's back of curb to back.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. Concept two.
Concept two, okay, so this concept is the more aggressive approach, and so what we're looking to do is optimize the square footage that we can fit on your last few remaining developable parcels in town, especially this here, the southeast entrance into town. So this one does have some realignment for some of the infrastructure, and you can see right off the bat, we're coming in and taking a different swing on Trophywood Drive. And we have looked to realign this from coming up, which kind of comes through Building 9, but we're looking at repositioning that and looking right up toward the front porch of Town Hall. So again, that common theme is looking for an anchor to this town center and letting Town Hall be that anchor. And so as we come in off of 114, so again, to orient yourself, 6 is Town Hall, 8 is Hutchins, 11 is HG Supply. So as soon as we turn in, you won't see that left turn lane anymore. I'll come through that a little bit later. We've also continued to remove that right turn lane to decrease the stacking problems. And then we're going to direct people around to come to Hutchins. They can come into the surface parking, or they can come hit the G2 garage, which is right next door. And with this concept, we're going to be looking at lots of different ways to catch 114 traffic's eyes. We're going to take advantage of all that visibility that you have on 114 and look at different ways to help brand this development, have signage opportunities and things like that. So as you enter Building 9, the south facade of Building number 9 is one of those opportunities. You could think of this as, maybe it is tenant signage for Building number 9. Maybe it's another really nice restaurant concept, or maybe it's a mural on the south side that could say, "Welcome to the Grove." Maybe it turns out to be an artist installation, and it's an Instagrammable moment or something of that nature. But we have taken that road and we've realigned it enough to point toward the front steps of Town Hall, but what it's also allowed us to do is add building square footage on the west side of the new Trophywood Drive. So now we've got Building 7 and 9, both are able to come in front on the new Trophywood Drive in a more urban setting. So we're going to neck that down at the intersection. We're going to have a nice nice walkable intersection to get people across that narrower roadway there. And then we've also got a narrower street section, same number of lanes, one north, one south. But this time, we're going to have parallel parking on each side of the road for those teaser spots for all the retail and commercial sites. And then you can think of a more urban approach as we're pushing those buildings up against the street. You're getting that direct visibility from all the traffic going by for those retail tenants there. And then we also have this intersection here at the bottom of Town Hall. So this is doing a couple of things. So we've realigned it to focus on Town Hall, but then also the traffic coming out of the neighborhood coming southbound. So just before this meeting started, I was sitting in the truck and viewing a lot of those cars coming off that hill. They come off that hill pretty fast, whether they intend to or not. It's easy not to just be hitting the brake, riding the brake, coming down the hill. So what this is going to allow us to do is come bring people down and then reset the traffic with the stop sign here in front of Town Hall. And so now we can reset the traffic, calm the traffic down as it moves through kind of the new hub of the development. So yes, we want as much traffic as possible coming to the development. That's going to help drive the success of all the tenants. But we also want it to be safe for the patrons, and then at the same time, not cause a big delay for people in their commutes coming from the neighborhood to and from. So it is a small delay. I don't know if that's a 20-second delay or a 30-second delay as you're moving through the development, but we've also added multiple routes to move through the development. So with this one, for example, if you're going to take a commute and you're headed east, you could easily make your way out here to the east and then come down to the stoplight. So an easy way to access out here. If you wanted to bypass the southern portion of Trophywood Drive, you could easily come out behind the hotel and make your way back out to the west once you get on 114. And also be a little further west than the on-ramp to be able to gauge that traffic coming off of 114. So coming back in here, this is now the new civic green space. So what we've done is we've pulled the existing parking lot that's here right out the front door, and we've pulled that roadway or that drive aisle to the south. And so we've created a green civic space right here on the front steps. So if you think about the front porch here, it's a pretty large front porch, but it's, be large enough to hold a small music venue or something. And so people could come out and put their lawn chairs on the front lawn at Town Hall. This could be a nice evening setting. And then you've got building 1, 5, 7, and 9 starting to come in and frame in this new civic space that's here. So building 9 is anticipated to be a 2-story product building. It could have ground floor retail restaurant, and then the upper floor, think of a concept similar to what you see down the street at Roanoke, like a Craft and Vine situation, but then also having a rooftop deck that you could come out and dine on and look over the plaza and the Civic Green. Maybe there's somebody playing, you could listen to the music and eat. Building 7 would be a single story, probably a restaurant building. This also faces up toward Town Hall. Also has a small little plaza situation here between building 5, 7, and maybe there's an art feature or a water feature there at the corner. But another little green space that could allow the kids to play there. Building 5 is anticipated. It's a true mixed-use building. Retail possibilities on the bottom. This could also be a situation where live-work units might be possible. So if you think about having a ground floor office on 5, maybe that fronts out onto this. Maybe it's a boutique, maybe it's an accounting office, something for residents that live here in the development that could also have a business here in the development. And then they could have a living scenario upstairs on the upper floor, and they could just walk down there. So the upper floors, this would be a 4-story building. The upper 3 stories could be an urban living concept. It might be hard to see, but there's a dashed line here, and you can see an entrance here on the south side of the building, but that's representing a subsurface garage situation, and that would be to serve the residential component of Building 5. Building 1 is, think of that as like, maybe that's a 2-story office building. That's just helping facade the G1 garage. And so G1 garage, again, is going to help serve Town Hall, and then it will have split support between the G2 garage to help support buildings 1, 5, 7, and 9. So a lot of people will park here and walk out to this block. So this is a redevelopment scenario here where the dentist office is to upgrade the dentist office. This could be in a new, larger building number 4, but also look at a parking garage structure that could help serve this central block as well as the Hutchins overflow parking that might be needed that used to happen out in the gravel parking lot out in the central. And then building 3.1/3.2. 3.1 is going to continue to push out some ground floor retail components out on Plaza Drive here, and then the upper stories would be an urban living possibility. It is a podium parking situation under building 3.2, so the first 2 floors would be garage decks and then some units that could be attached above. Then the big change on HG Supply. So you'll notice that there is a new building south of HG Supply on the south side of the power line easement where the parking lot used to be. And so this is looking at a future expansion for HG Supply, whether they wanted to bring in a different concept or whether they wanted to be a partner in a land deal and provide some place that could have a complementary use. Maybe it is some nice boutique shopping storefronts or something on Building 12. Maybe it's an expansion of the coffee shop, but maybe while you're waiting on a table, you can just walk across the alley and go hit up some of the boutique stores there. But what this is we have taken away all the vehicular access between Building 11 and 12, and we have made this the golf cart alley, if you will. So there's lots of golf cart uses. We did hear that from some of the neighborhood community meetings, that would be another mobility mode that people might use to come to the site. So what this is doing is giving them a place to go when they come and visit the Grove. So if somebody's going to come down Trophywood Drive, they can come pull in, and they can come pull into the alley. It'd be a place where you can meet other golf cart drivers that want to come visit the site, but they can park there and then walk to their destination from there. The same concept from Concept A. We've shifted the entrance drive down to the west a little bit, give people a little bit more time to safely make the maneuverability over to hit the exit. We've got some ground floor retail in 15.3 just to help treat that corner facade a little bit, get some signage there. And then we've got a large garage that's going to help serve this western side of the development. And this can also be another hey, look at us opportunity for all the traffic going by on 114, that this could be the Grove kind of signage billboard to help have tenant signage for all the buildings and the tenants back here. So huge billboard opportunity on the back side of the garage here. So in this concept, you'll notice that the terminus used to be about right here. So we've lengthened that, and again, trying to maximize the square footage that we're looking at this vacant lot that just currently has the parking lot on it. So we've extended that terminus down to building 14, which could possibly, maybe that's an entertainment venue, maybe it's got a bowling alley in it. There's new concepts that have indoor pickleball. This was looking at a two-story concept for buildings 13 and 14, but building 14 could have a pickleball or a golf simulator. There's a fairway and social and a chicken and social concept. It's a combined golf simulator and indoor pickleball concept that I think is making its way around the Metroplex. But Building 14, again, looking at some entertainment uses. Building 13 would just be a two-story building. It could have retail restaurant on the ground floor, maybe a few offices on the upper floors. And then as we move south, this could have, again, the senior living component or urban living component situated on this 15 and 15.2. This would move its way up to a four-story building. So as we're moving north to south, we're trying to be somewhat respectful to the neighborhood residents as we move down the hill. So we just have a two-story building, and then that'll almost be the same size as the four-story as you move down that hill toward the interstate. So trying not to put large-scale buildings back here on the backside, really tall buildings. So again, 16, 17, everything back to the west is going to stay the same as the initial concept A. These are remaining the same, and then we've got the senior living component, age-restricted, could have assisted living in there as well. And same thing here, we've tried to clean up some of the connections to our neighbor here. This is going through the uses. You'll see an increase of uses there. Looking at the trail connections, pretty similar to concept A as far as the multi-use trail. You'll see the golf cart alley. That's kind of the golf cart zone for people to come and park and walk in the development. And then we, again, discussed some of the feedback is go ahead and making this work on to the east here, whether that makes its way behind Town Hall or down the power line easement, this road, making that connection further to the east. And then with that realignment, looking at the narrower street section, rather than having such an expanse of the right-of-way, bringing that in, still have the same number of traffic lanes, one north, one south, but then we'll have the parallel parking, and then a nice streetscape where, the tenant shops are more closer to engaging the street. You could have tree grates on there, but a nice walkable sidewalk along the storefronts there. And then these are just a few concept, inspirational images that kind of show some of those different successful developments that have taken place, but something that's a little bit more scale, not looking at something that's like Legacy West or something, but looking at some scales that would potentially work here, be successful in the market.
Well, that was very in
I have a
detail. So what I'm thinking, we only have about 10 minutes.
Okay.
I'd like to use it like this. Each person gets to say a comment about this, something that intrigues you, and something that you want more information about. You ready?
Oh, yeah. Mayor led this off by talking about how our time is limited. Let's go ahead and schedule another workshop on this topic
Yeah.
whenever it's relevant, since it's already 6:50. So much was just said about specific use of particular concept of buildings and where garages would serve and whatnot, and none of it was written. I would have loved to have seen all that in the packet. our time together is limited, and that information could have and should have been communicated in writing, and it also would have made this session more useful. I have a lot of things I'd love to share, but we're short on time, so I'll save my time in case we have
Well,
extra.
what's exciting about it for you?
I'm actually not super excited about any of it yet. We need to whittle down on it more.
Nothing gets you,
No, this isn't an excitement thing for me, it's a strategic thing, sorry.
thank you.
No, it's not exciting, I just want to work on it.
All right, good, thank you. Dennis, you want to talk now?
I got 4 pages of negative notes. If I see residential apartments in this, any of this stuff, I'm a no vote, and I just as soon save our money and do something different. Thank you.
Okay, Steve?
I guess the second concept, I like conceptually a little more, like Ryland says, there's a lot to be, we got a lot of work to do. What I like most about it is the focal point of where Town Hall is and everything around it. When you said that was the focal point in concept 1, I wasn't quite getting it. I mean, it didn't make sense to me until you bring in what's now concept 2. That made more sense to me. I guess that's my overriding thought.
Okay, thank you. Jeff?
I like the general idea of it, trying to tie in the connectivity and bring in a little more retail opportunities, but it's just too early to
Oh,
get.
sure. This is
It's
what
concept.
we're looking at. This is the beginning. If you don't get started, you won't get to the end. So this is what this is about. Stacy, you have anything?
I'll just say thank you. There's a lot of work put into this. I appreciate that. The other thing I'd really like to see more is, can you put this in motion? It's hard to visualize that type of landscape in this small area. So maybe bringing it to life just a little bit gives it a little more of a visual to not just us, but to the residents, to be able to kind of conceptualize what that looks like as a holistic view.
Like looking at it from a perspective rendering or,
A little bit, yeah. Can you, I mean, maybe 3D it, or maybe put in a visual rendering video type it's
Yes,
just
ma'am.
hard to conceptualize that amount of space and that amount of land use going into one space.
yes. And specifically, it gets even a little bit more difficult when you're talking about multiple uses on different levels of buildings. Uses are stacked in a true mixed use. It makes it a little bit hard to display in a 2D plan, but.
Yeah, so structurally, I mean,
this
it
goes.
looks great on paper, but how do we see that come to life so that we can actually visualize if this would work in this town and in that space?
I would like to say that I think, for me, it's exciting because it is an opportunity to brand Trophy Club. And that's all I'm going to say. I don't know how it would look, but you have presented 2 different concepts, and clearly concept 2 is what you call, I wrote it down, branding. The opportunity to create a walking, interactive environment. Many of us have gone to various different sites like this, and this has that feel. And I agree with Stacy, it'd be fun to see because it does, you go to this last page where you see these renderings, you say, okay, now, will that building fit in that? Because we see this space as small, really. I mean, I do. You may not, but I do. I see it small.
For sure.
And the idea that you got all of this in there is interesting. So that's what I would say.
I'll add a couple notes if I can on since we will definitely get to talk to you guys again. Let's, on these concepts, let's do something visually to specifically call out the parcels where the town has interest and control, because we have town and EDC owned land versus not. I think the most important thing we can do is communicate the feasibility of anything we can do. And as you all understand better than we do, aside from two parcels, all of this is privately owned. So we have to have private agreement on anything we do, which means it requires money. It requires developers that are going to have their own opinions and ideas on how to, best utilize their land, whether something is redeveloped or newly developed. So for our residents, I think it's very important to show here's what we can control and here's what we can not control. And that's one of the reasons why we established an EDC and why those pieces of land were bought when they was to give that little extra bit of control, So that's something that I think would be important as we go forward.
Just a minute.
And let me see, I had a couple others. Some of it's a little more detailed. I don't want to go too deep until we have
Yeah.
the proper
We're
opportunity.
going to have that up.
I think it would also be helpful to have some understanding of the square footage that could be supported with and without, or with garage versus surface parking. Just understanding the deltas there, because we know structured parking is as expensive as it gets. So having some numbers to just in the documentation, even if it's not a part of, you know. And another thing that I think would be interested as it relates to redevelopment, because we know there's two spots that I think we'd all would agree would be sweet if they got redeveloped, one being the vineyards and the other being the extended stay hotel. Anyone that came in willing and properly capitalized to redevelop those parcels would pretty much want to replicate the current use. What kind of money would we have to come up with to change their mind? And is it even realistic? I think understanding the order of magnitude of that would help also guide the way we try to word this, or put this together, because really what we have to try to do is provide guidelines and guardrails for future decision-making bodies. And so that's my most important objective for this particular
thank you.
plan.
Real briefly,
Yeah.
dollars and cents. You're talking millions and millions of dollars. A parking garage is in the $5 to $10 million range. And who pays for it? The other is the infrastructure redoing Trophywood Drive. How many millions is that is? The other is, I've talked to somebody who tried to buy the vineyards, and their life expectancy of the vineyards is another 25 to 30 years.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, do whatever you want. Trophy Club doesn't follow these plans anyway, so do what you want with the vineyards. I need to focus on our 5 acre and our 2 acres and the highest and best usage for commercial property. We don't have the luxury of having any more residential in this town. We need commercial tax base. Thank you.
Okay, we do have 2 minutes left, so my question to you is, let's play like we have agreed on a concept. Let's just play like that. The next step would be that you would, or someone would help us do what?
If we had a concept,
It's done.
it's
Well,
done.
Yeah.
The next step would be for us to finalize the draft or the area plan document itself that puts all of it together, and we would come back and present that to you for adoption.
Okay, but then after that, what happens?
After that, sorry, okay, specifically after that.
I mean, I want-
We would have recommendations and implementation strategies in that document, and so we would outline those in a matrix for the staff, council to follow in order to be able to go attract developers or what other tools are needed to redo codes or look at something like that to be able to do this.
Okay, I guess that's what I'm hearing. You would go out and help discover some developers to say, this is something I want to invest in, and we would do it.
We are happy to test this
Yeah.
with our current clients.
Okay.
And then we'd also work with the town on an RFEI, I think is what it's called.
Correct, yeah, their scope of work does not include necessarily being that version of it for
Correct.
us, but.
I mean, this is very hypothetical, don't get me wrong,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
let's just play like we're there.
Yeah.
And then next, okay, good. Okay. Any final comments?
No, I'm good.
Any comments?
All set?
Okay, well, we look forward to seeing you all
Thank you,
again. Thank you.
a very nice presentation of your,
Thank you. Thank you.
Just on the presentation and everything, it was really good, by the way, guys. But, can you, on the deal state whether it's a multi-story building, how high it goes?
Yeah, that 3D would really help with that.
Yeah, because during the whole thing, we didn't know. And what we seen online, we didn't know.
Yeah.
and remember, this is a first, here we are.
Yeah.
And we're going to go to the next step, in the next, so we will get there.
The next one would be nice to see.
We will get there,
That.
yes.
Yeah, we agree. We would like to do that.
Yeah, we will make it happen. Okay. 6:59, we'll close the workshop, and we will open at 7:05. How about that?
That's right.
I can, the clock. the Town of Trophy Club Town Council meeting. It is February the 24th, and we have a quorum. And again, I want to, as always, welcome those who are viewing online. We appreciate you tagging in on us, watching, listening to what's happening in your community, because it's the place that you can do that without coming to the town hall. But we'd rather you be at the town hall so we could see your shining faces. So we appreciate you being here, and we would like to stand, please, for our invocation by Reverend Bill Eason. Thank you, Bill, for being here.
Let us join together in prayer. Almighty God, bless us this evening. Bless the town council meeting that lies before us. Bless those who lead us. Bless those who participate. Bless our first responders who protect and watch over us. Remind us what makes this community so special. It's each of us gathered here in this place that serves our community. Remind us of our great obligation to serve one another and those most vulnerable who need us, our elderly and our children. Remind us that what separates us pales in comparison to what unites us. Reminds us that we have an obligation to seek justice and to resist evil. Remind us that we have a mandated responsibility to react in love for you and for our neighbor. Remind us that what we do this day, how we treat one another, affects our children and our grandchildren. We pray that generations to come will be inspired by our actions this very evening. Remind us that you call us your beloved, and that each of us are important and loved by you. Oh God, help us to heal the broken places of our life together, places of despair and disappointment, places of pain and injustice, places of neglect and abuse. As we journey together, set our hearts to beat in rhythm with yours, and blend us with all people of goodwill, both in this place and beyond, as this community stands as a beacon of hope, of peace, and of justice. For this we pray in your holy and precious name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Oh, by the way, I would like to welcome Brad and Aaron again. Aaron is here learning about local government, and here he is with his dad again, so we appreciate you being here. Tammy, would you like to read our public comments, please?
We don't have anybody signed up for speaking.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know I had to sign up.
Nope. Come on up. You just have to have a name and an address in Trophy Club. Come on.
Okay, all right.
Please give us your name and address.
Christian Baird, 111 Rolling Rock Drive. Hey, Dennis, I voted for that man.
Well, do you want to take it back?
You were there. We had a nice little chat.
Just kidding.
I had my Ray Bans on and my son had to
I
pretend,
remember.
for skin cancer prevention. And by the way, the development ideas were really interesting, but I agree about residential, maybe 55 plus would be a good idea. But, I want to thank Dennis, because we've had some chit chats and texts. I've spoke to Paul in code enforcement a few times. We've owned our home since it was built in 1999, and just recently started paying attention to town affairs. Like Trophy Club is a great bedroom community, great schools, the highest safety ratings amongst the police and fire department, nice parks, quiet place. We've been slowly reinvesting in our home over the last 5 years because it's our forever home. During COVID, I started walking the dog around the neighborhood, and I started to become more aware of our surroundings. And, I know there are currently no rules in place, and Dennis had me watch online a few months ago of a lady talking about, lawn maintenance and things like that. Again, and I don't know what state law is versus town law, but, you're seeing people with 4 or 5 cars parked in their driveway, or literally, they're right up to where the curb cut meets the street. Permanent garbage cans all week out in front of the garage. Touch on lawn maintenance issues. I know there's some vague area that I think needs to be tightened up. I'd like to see everything cut like a Marine. I know that this is just for commentary. I was made aware that there's something on the docket, correct me if I'm wrong, to start talking about it during this upcoming year. When those talks do occur, I encourage when they look at tightening up. Again, I'm not trying to be KGB or, unless you reduce my taxes, I'll walk around and report everybody. But I know enforcement takes money. And I know, it was brought to my attention, it takes resources to drive around and, look at things and those types of things. I don't know if we could empower our police department to do it, and then the department keeps the fines they collect, for all those types of things. I do know that Trophy Club, where we were, there was a basic town HOA that was voted out 20-some-odd years ago. I would definitely support an idea like that. Again, nothing may be too tight, but I don't know if that's possible, if this is the right venue. But I just wanted to bring those up as concern. And I've recorded various homes and things like that I won't mention now because it's not appropriate, of where I see these constant issues. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. We appreciate you bringing it to our attention. Thank you. And do watch going forward, because this is an initiative in the town. We will be continuing to, I'm not supposed to speak to this, sorry.
Can I at least say, nice to see you, Chris?
We're talking.
No.
No, we can't talk, I'm sorry, but thank you.
We'll go to the Oak Barrel. I'll buy the whiskeys after.
Yeah. Oh,
I like that.
sorry.
Dennis is in.
Sorry, thank you. All right, so we're going to be working for the Trophy Club, and we have our town manager, Brandon Wright, to speak to us about the strategic plan 2025 through 2030.
Yep, yeah, so I was asked to give just a kind of a brief overview of our strategic plan and how that works in the town and kind of where we are with it. So first of all, making sure that everyone realizes, really Trophy Club is centered on one concept, right? And that is a great place to call home. With that, we developed a strategic plan. There we go. And we did so in collaboration with the town council, our staff, the community, lots of public input into the process. And really, we found 5 key focus areas that we've been focusing on. Prioritize public safety, promote quality of life, strengthen infrastructure, upholding housing standards, and supporting business. Those are the 5 anchors that really kind of prioritize the list of projects that we have over the things that we want to accomplish over the next 5 to 15, 20 years with that. So, what is the strategic plan? Well, it drives to enrich the lives of residents, businesses, visitors, and organizations, and it aims to align our resources with our goals. Okay, through the budgeting process, we make sure that we have aligned our staff time, costs, contracts, things like that to be able to achieve our strategic plan over time. So we've developed a 5-year strategy map, and that's here on this page. I'm not going to go over it in great detail, right? But each of the different focus areas has 3 to 4 objectives associated with each of those areas. With it, all this information is online and available to our residents, and I would encourage everyone to go out there and take a look at it. If you're looking for it online and you can't find it, just go to Ask Indy in the corner and ask them where's the strategic plan, and Indy is very, very good at fetching that for you and bringing it back. See what I did there?
Nice.
Okay, very good. All right, just wanted to make sure everyone noticed.
Good job.
The business plan with it. So from the strategic plan, which is that larger 5 to 20-year plan, then we prioritize into our annual business plan goals. Business plan goals are those items that we're going to be accomplishing over the next 12 to 18, 24 months, and prioritizes the work that staff does in the immediate time. Those are the items that we make sure are loaded into our budget, and that will be prioritized for the upcoming fiscal year. We've identified 6 of those for this year, and I'll kind of just real quick touch on what they are. So first of all, goal 1 is creating a comprehensive crisis communication plan and also an emergency management strategy for the community, and we're actively working on that. Goal number 2, also in the area of prioritizing public safety, is enhancing public safety on town property by looking at things like speeding, golf carts usage, pedestrian areas, things like that. And so our police chief is working actively with the community to be able to identify those areas and provide solutions for both improvements in enhancement as well as infrastructure improvements. Number 3 is the comprehensive master plan for our parks and other active areas in the community. You're familiar with this, but we are well underway on that contract right now to be able to work with the community on identifying what are the park needs of the community over the next 5 to 20 years. Goal number 4 is developing a 10-year maintenance and replacement plan for our physical assets. That includes things like our streets, sidewalks, storm drainage system, our street signs, our sound walls, things like that we have around the town of Trophy Club. As we develop a 10-year maintenance plan, the idea is that we're going to be keeping those up over time and making sure that they remain beautiful and active and ready for the community. Upholding housing standards, we've gone on to the goal of establishing best practices for permitting senior group homes and boarding homes for that. So we see a few of those entering our community, and so this is identifying solutions for us to be able to address those and tackle those challenges that come. And then goal number 6, you're very familiar with this one because we just touched on one of the presentations related to that, and that is continuing redevelopment strategies for the 114 corridor and other commercial areas here in the town for it. And obviously that contract with McAdams, developing a small area plan and things that we can do to revitalize this particular area here around Trophy Wood Drive is of our concern here in this year. I'll also add that we do business plan reporting. Every quarter, we report on our progress on this goal. So anyone can go online right now and they can see what these updates are. I know it's very small on the screen. The intent wasn't to be able to read it, right? But each one of these goals actually has an update for that, ready for the community. We'll be publishing those after the completion of each fiscal year quarter that we have. Because our fiscal year begins in October, right? First quarter is October, November, December. We report then in January. So we'll report in the months of January, April, July, and October about our progress on each of these goals and how it is that we're attaining them with the community. And that's all I have. We're very excited to work on this, strategic plan and the business plan. There is lots of information available online for the community to go and to take a look at that. But it has transformed as a staff how it is that we focus on our priorities and work on those on behalf of our community. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And again, those who are watching online have the opportunity to see this, and because this is what drives us, this is how we communicate, this is how we measure performance in the town. Thank you. We will go to any town council member updates. Anybody want anything to say? Nothing? Nothing's going on? Nada? Well, I think then we go on to the civic.
Okay. Oh, is it me first? Okay. Updates from the town manager. Just a couple of items for you this evening. First of all, while the weather is improving, we are excited to be soon coming upon one of our outdoor movie nights at Harmony Park. That will be on March 7th, and the movie is being shown is Inside Out 2. So March 7th at Harmony Park begins at 6:45, goes until about 8:45 for there. We'll also have a food truck with concessions, and the concession stand will also be available. And don't forget this time of year to make sure to bring a blanket and a lawn chair so you're comfortable there for a cozy night under the stars. Then coming up at our next council meeting on Monday, March 10th, this one's kind of a big one for that. We are going to kick off our 40th anniversary celebration. At that meeting, we're going to be bringing forward a proclamation for the council to present that evening. But before our meeting at 6 o'clock, we invite the public to come and to join us in a small celebration here at Town Hall. We'll have light refreshments, hors d'oeuvres, we'll have a historical slideshow, and we'll have some displays showcasing some of this town's history. And we will also have community reflections as well. So we've invited some special invitees to come and to share with us some of their reflections of the early days of Trophy Club. Again, we're celebrating our 40th anniversary this year. It is a big opportunity for us, and you'll be seeing a lot of celebrating going on at each of our town events throughout the year. Things like extravaganza, 4th of July, all these different activities will have a 40th anniversary theme to them, and we'll have plenty of goodies and giveaways to give to the community to celebrate. Last but not least, we have our boards and commission meetings that are coming up on February 27th. We have our Economic Development Corporation, EDC Board, meeting at 6 p.m. And then on March 6th, we have our Planning and Zoning Board meeting at 6 p.m. as well. And we always invite the public to come in to either attend or watch those that are available online for it. So any questions on those items, I can take those, but otherwise, thank you, Mayor.
Any questions? Thank you. Oh, just regarding the 40th anniversary, we're going to be celebrating that all year long
That
through
is
all
correct.
of our activities, events. And I know that Jill has created a wonderful logo for the 40-year anniversary. So that will be constantly being thrown at the community during the year. Okay. Anything else? Okay, you are on. Quick
right.
civic tip.
So Tammy actually suggested that maybe I talk a little bit about the public comment section. I like how it just played out here. There,
Oh, good, thank you.
believe it or not, there were some municipalities that were attempting to stop public comment. So the Texas legislature decided to add a requirement to the Texas government code. And it's section 551.007 allows people to speak before or during an agenda item. And as the mayor caught herself tonight, we don't deliberate on items that are not on the agenda, but it's helpful to hear public comments. And if the public would like to speak on a particular item, that's also enshrined in your new rules of procedure. So this is section 6.4, right to speak. Texas Government Code section 551.007 requires the town council to allow citizens to address the town council prior to the town council's consideration of an item listed on the meeting agenda, which we did here tonight. The town charter provides that citizens of the town shall have reasonable opportunity to be heard at any meeting. So it's also in your town charter. In addition to that, there's a new section 6.5 in the public comment section that allows public meeting appearance cards to be submitted. So if someone feels nervous or timid or just doesn't want to speak, to get up and speak, they can submit a card and the card can be read aloud.
Okay, good, thank you.
I just want to add a little something to that, because that was some of my favorite topics. It just came up with Jeanette, and I want everybody to know, we wish we could just talk about whatever y'all come up and talk about. So I always said, like for Mr. Baird, the business cards are in the back. We invite y'all to reach out directly. It's always hard from our perspective when somebody comes, especially when they surprise you with something that you want to talk about. So we're with you. The state just doesn't let us talk about it if it's not published in advance.
true.
So
So we learned by my
okay.
my mistake, didn't we? So everybody now has learned that you do not speak, do not respond to public comments. The mayor
It
showed
was
you
a
how.
strategic example.
It
Yeah.
was, it was.
yeah.
We learn from each other. Anyway, that's okay, that's good. We are ready to do the consent agenda, Tammy, please.
Do you want to read the item?
You want to just, we're going to look at the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move
Make
to
a
approve.
motion.
Oh, wait a minute, Rylan, go
Go
for it.
ahead. After
I'll move to approve consent agenda items 3 through 6
I'll second.
and turn the
right.
gain down on my mic.
Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? Motion passes.
Awesome.
That's for you, Rylan.
Yes. Hardcore.
Okay, let's go to item 7, please.
Case SUP 25001, Hampton Inn by Hilton Trophy Club. Conduct a public hearing and consider an ordinance approving a specific use permit request by Titan Beverage LLC on behalf of the owner Hydro Hotels LLC, Hampton Inn by Hampton Trophy Club, for alcohol beverage sales for a TABC BG permit for on-premise or off-premise consumption. Approximately 250 feet north of State Highway 114, located at 525 Plaza Drive, Trophy Club, Tarrant County, Texas.
We'll open a public hearing, please. It is 7:24.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. This is kind of a formality for Hampton Inn. They already have an SUP. Back in 2019, they applied for SUP for off-premise consumption. Basically what that is they're selling beer and wine. They've got a little guest services there in the front, but it's unopened. And so you can buy it, take it to your room, you can go get in a car and you can leave, what they went through TABC was for off-premise. So they've got a new concept that they're bringing into their little service shop. It's going to be kind of like not a kiosk, but if y'all been to Social Oak, where you've got the ability to, pour wine or beer there on tap, that's what they're bringing in. Therefore, TABC said you need to reapply for on and off premise. So that's basically what they're doing as a formality. Basically, everything stays the same, so the distances to churches and the schools, those haven't changed. Chief of Police has no objections. Public notice was published, and we haven't received any inquiries. The town attorney has reviewed the ordinance, and P&Z, earlier this month, they had very little discussion and unanimously recommended approval. In fact, it was a record meeting, 5 minutes flat.
Oh, man.
Well, we're working on ours.
We had one
right
that was
now.
9 minutes.
Raleigh
Remember
Beach.
that,
This was
Matt?
5
Raleigh,
minutes
we're working on
flat.
ours.
Yeah, we're working.
So staff does recommend approval, and I'm here if you have any questions.
Is there anyone from the audience who wants to speak to this? Okay. 7:26, the public hearing closes. Is there discussion from the council? Is there a motion?
I move to approve SUP 25-001 as outlined by Matt.
I'll second it.
Stacy seconds that. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? Motion passes. We'll go to item 8, please.
Consider accepting the annual comprehensive financial report for the Town of Trophy Club fiscal year 2024.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, we are here to present the fiscal year 2023-24 annual audit and report. Before turning it over to our independent auditor, I want to take a moment to express my sincere appreciation for the finance staff's dedication and hard work throughout this process. Their commitment to excellence has been instrumental in ensuring a smooth and thorough audit, and I truly appreciate their efforts. I am pleased to report that the Town of Trophy Club's financial position remains exceptionally strong, with continued financial improvement achieved through the close of fiscal year 2023-24. At this time, I would like to introduce Lauren Stamey from Forvis, the town's independent auditing firm, who will provide an overview of the audit report findings and address any questions you may have. Thank you.
All righty, hey y'all.
Hey, glad you're here. Thank you.
My name is Lauren Stamey. Last year we were just Forvis, and this year we have changed names to Forvis Mazars. We underwent a merger, and so with that merger, we're one of now the top 10 CPA firms in the United States, and we actually audit over 800 public sector entities. So this is our specialty. It's what I do. I've done this for 10 years. I'm very passionate about it. It's all I do. Please don't ask me tax questions because I do not know the answer. So that's a little bit about me and a little bit about Forvis. So we'll jump right into it because I hear y'all are trying to move fast.
Well, we can't set a record tonight, as you just learned.
Yeah, well, you
so
might as well
So
take
might as
your
well
time
start off
now.
Feel
page-
free, just take your time,
Page 1,
yeah.
200, just
You
page
can set a record on the other end.
Oh.
Just saying.
That could be trouble.
So, of course, we can't talk about the audit without talking about April and her team. They worked so hard this year. So our opinion is on, I think it's technically page 1, it's the one with our letterhead on it. One thing I want to point out, she already mentioned the audit was clean, but I want to point out one thing before we get to that, is this opinion date is February 2025. So I went back and pulled all the audits for the last 14 years, and this is the first time in 14 years the audit has been issued in February. So the deadline is 3/31. She's always met that deadline, of course, but it's a really big deal to be done a whole month early. So I think that's amazing, and because her team worked so hard this year. Y'all see this? Yeah. Y'all see this beautiful document with its shiny cover, but a lot of blood, sweat, and tears goes into it. So that her and her team
Man.
work extremely hard on this. So I want to show you in the opinion. It's the very first thing we let you know is you have what we call a clean or an unmodified opinion. So you're kind of thinking about school, that's an A+. You want a clean, unmodified opinion whenever you're looking at any set of financial statements. And the town did achieve a clean, unmodified opinion. A couple other things in this document I want to point out is, I think it's on page, let's see, XI is the GFOA Certificate of Achievement. So this is also a really big deal to achieve. This is actually the 13th, you'll submit this year and get it for the 14th year, consecutive year of receiving this award. So this is kind of like the Grammy or the Emmy for financial reporting. So again, another really big deal that April and her team should be proud of, and y'all should be proud of too, that you get this award. Because we audit other municipalities that don't necessarily get this award, so it's a really big deal to achieve this. Then one other thing before I get into the required communications is everyone always looks at this massive document and they're like, okay, you put this 200-page document in front of me, you know, what should I read, where should I start? And of course I say all of it, of course, but realistically I know. The MD&A is actually a great place to start, the management's discussion and analysis. And that is right after our audit opinion on page 4. And it kind of outlines what's happened this year, big changes year over year. And so if you want to know where to start, that's a really good place to start if you're going to have some reading with this. So with that, I'm going to kind of go over what we call our required communications. And feel free to stop me if you have any questions in between. I'm very informal, as you can tell. I'm going to go over this letter. It's kind of tucked into it. So kind of this first page is us just going over the audit standards that we do our audit in accordance with. Kind of a lot of auditors speak on that first page. So then on the second one, I'm going to kind of skip down to the qualitative aspects of what we're required to communicate. So all the significant accounting policies, those are described in note 1 of the audited financial statements. So if you want to read those start on page 28 of this document. Looks like that, just says notes to the financial statements. Pleased to report there's no unusual policies or methods, and then nothing to report with alternative accounting treatments. And then as a part of any audit, there's what we call a management judgment or a management estimate. So not just your audit, but any audit that's done, there's some significant estimates that go into preparing a set of financial statements. And so those are all listed there in that section. And then kind of hand in hand with that is financial statement disclosures that might be interesting for the reader to have, and those are all, again, outlined right there. The next section is our adjustments identified by audit. So as a part of any audit, we look at the financials, we kind of go through things with the team. Excuse me, I'll take some water. And we say, okay, we think an adjustment might need to be prepared to this account or for this transaction. And so this is just listed. A couple of auditor proposed adjustments that management made that we proposed. And then there were no adjustments that we proposed that management did not make. And so that's kind of the first section of this letter. Any questions so far?
So, and I'm on page, whatever. But, okay, on your page 4, the proposed record adjustments?
Yep.
The town's already satisfied you on that?
Yep, those were all recorded. And so the first two are what we call audit adjustments that we recorded, and there's a couple that are just easier for us to do, and so those are actually outsourced to us as a part of the audit.
Yeah.
And so you can see next to those are listed as outsourced to us.
Okay. And Council, I'm talking about page
Yep.
255 of
Oh.
ours, of our agenda.
Yeah, if you
Okay.
have the
Got it.
page, it's the bottom of page 3.
Yeah.
If you're-
Yeah,
Yeah.
page 3 of
Thank
the
you.
letter.
Bottom page 3 here.
You've done good, April.
So the next, we have a couple of things over internal control. And so whenever you're thinking about internal control, there's different levels of severity. We have kind of like a chart right there, but I'll explain them. So we have material weakness, which is the highest severity. Then we have a significant deficiency, and then we have a deficiency. And so the town did not have any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies, but there's one, and we did talk about it last year, for segregation of duties. And this is pretty common in any small entity. You have to weigh the cost versus benefit of having additional positions in order to have those preventative internal controls in there. So sorry.
However, we know that we can meet those needs because we have a financial whiz as our town manager.
Yes, so we have what we call detective controls that are in place, which is what helps get this down from not being a material weakness.
Yes.
Or a significant deficiency, because it would detect anything before it happened, but not necessarily always prevent. And so that's why we're able to get it down to just being a deficiency.
So I heard not significant.
Correct, not a
Right,
significant,
okay, and council, that's on page 257 of our packet.
or the bottom of page 5.
Honey, we're working on page, do you know something?
No, I know, but I'm on
Okay.
my notes are
I'm just
based on
trying
our
to, I'm
packet.
just trying to help you.
Okay,
And so, yeah, those are, and then the definitions are all in there too, if you want to refer back to them.
thank you. Good. That's all my questions. You can end it now.
All right, just one last page. Just want to let you know, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, or GASB, is who sets the accounting rules and regulations that we follow, that April follows in preparing this document. So they have been pretty active these past couple of years. They took a break this year, let you have a little breather, but they picked things right back up. And so there are a whole bunch of more statements that are going to be effective in future fiscal years. If you're interested, we outline those out there for you to read as well. But I won't. I mean, I could read them too if you want to have a long meeting, but I'll let you read through them yourself. And so with that, I will take any other questions or anything else.
Okay, any questions, please? Anyone? Dennis, you have no questions?
I have
No,
a
she's
comment
answered.
in general.
Okay, you may have a comment.
So it's great seeing this report again, whatever, 13th straight year. But I want to echo what you mentioned about April and her staff. Just spectacular. I mean, working on the budget subcommittee, I've done that a couple years. She's always prepared, always has the information. When it's not there and we ask for it, she reacts. So it is, from a council perspective, really a pleasure knowing that you have to go through such a detail, 250-some pages worth of detail, but able to summarize it the way April does for us is really well done. So thank you, April.
I would agree. She's great to work with. Like I said, I audit lots of municipalities, not only in Texas, but across the United States. And there's some, you know how some government workers can be, they can say, okay, that's great, whatever. But she, you know, she's taking notes and she always wants to do the best thing for Trophy Club. And so it really is a pleasure to work with her and her team. She does a great job.
And I couldn't find any misspelled words.
That suggests he's read every page.
You snuck in one that you missed.
Brandon, from your perspective, the GASB statements under other matters, are there any highlights that are worth mentioning, or are these just super obtuse?
They're, yeah, unless you're an
Yeah.
accountant.
Cool.
They're probably a little obtuse.
That's what I figured.
You want to spell that, Dennis?
Any other comments? Okay, I think we need to have a motion for this, please. And
I'll make a
someone like
motion to accept the annual comprehensive financial report for the Town Trophy Club for fiscal year 2024.
A second.
He's going to second it this time.
Okay.
Dennis seconds.
Bob,
Okay,
Let's get it done.
those in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, April. Thank you. Good job.
Item 9, consider proposed options for the community pool renovation design and construction management project.
And we have Chase Ellis, our park director.
Steam.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Excited to come before you tonight to share the work that we've been working on with the pool project. Just kind of a little background and recap. Back on November 8th, 2022, there was a motion made to do a pool enhancement to the community pool not to exceed $4 million. That project was divided up into phases. Phase 1 was completed the summer of 2023 that looked at enhancements to the building as well as the filtration systems, painting some of the apparatuses and the playground features, spray pad features in the leisure pool area. And then as when Town Manager Wright came on and myself came on this last January, we took a look at the concepts and what we were doing as we were going to be jumping into phase 2 and looked at the approach. And so currently we had entered into a new contract with Park Hill to provide community engagement and some opportunities for the community as we had not seen that in the previous phase. And so we were able to bring through the RFQ process, interview firms, bring Park Hill on, and we did a couple of engagements out at the pool, and many of you were there, got to speak with the community about what they wanted to see happen in Phase 2, which the current budget for Phase 2 is $2.4 million, to look at enhancements mainly to the lap pool and kid pool area of the facility. And so as we did that, out of those engagements, the top 5 enhancements that were from those respondents was a body slide, a group shade, lounge area, sun deck, public cabanas, and play structures. And so Park Hill was able to take that information, and as we've come to Park Board over the past couple of months with one set of options, and then it was decided in December to look at the third option that kind of combined the first and second one to come up with the third option. Because as we'll go through each of these options, I'll bring to light some of those enhancements that were in your packet. And where we are as far as the next steps is when we establish the contract with Park Hill, we did this in their contract in 2 phases. One was the public engagement and schematic design phase, which we're in here. And then if we decide to go forward with an option, then we'll look at the construction and closeout phase. That will be the actual designing the construction documents as well as carrying through construction management for the final phase of that. So that's just a recap on their contracts, because we wanted to build in multiple times where we come before you to have these check-ins to keep you up to date where we are. So going into that, what we wanted to do was bring the 3 options in front of you. One thing I would like to point out that you will see commonalities in all 3 options. One is different variations of slides. This is what we call a body slide that's more geared towards, the 8-year-olds and above. Because currently within our splash pad area, we have our lagoon slides, things like that. And during the public engagement, specifically, one individual had said, my kids still use the slides in the lagoon, but not for much longer, and was looking for a bigger slide, more opportunities because they enjoy coming to the community pool and just wanting to keep their I call them tweens, the right before the teenagers to the teenagers to have them have a space. So each of the concepts, you'll see a body slide that is incorporated in that, as well as I want to draw attention to the kid pool area. And every single one of these options, it is a complete redesign of the kid pool area. One thing that it incorporates is, as we know that 3 to 6-year-olds, the Texas sun is very hot. And so having some sort of shade structure. And so as you see the shaded area over top, there will be a shade that is called out to cover the play structure area, as well as some in-water loungers. So a place that the parents that are supervising their children can be able to sit and socialize, and then replacing some of those features in there, as well as adding a 0 depth here. As we looked at the shade public cabanas, gathering spots for those, you'll see different variations of this. That these are opportunities for us also as we talk about birthday parties. As you go to other facilities, there are options, especially on the high participation days, such as the weekends, that there will be options to be able to rent these out for birthday parties, different things like that, that you have a guaranteed shade spot that you can be able to have your family and your friends together. And that's what's called out in these areas, as well as some more kind of sunbathing lounge areas for individuals while their kids are playing in the pool, or if they're taking a dip and then want to be able to warm up in the sun. That's what's called out in this area. So option 1, estimated costs as we're in that schematic design, just to bring attention to that. that as we refine this, those numbers will get closer and closer to what we expect when it goes out to bid. And we actually do the construction drawings. But with Park Hill's expertise and WTI, option A, we're looking at $2,560,000. And I also do want to draw attention that as this is a significant construction project, a lot of the sun decks will be tore up as well as the kid pool. And so when you're looking through the cost callouts, that's for complete replacement of the concrete, the planters, the irrigation, the landscapes. Because as we put in new features and taking piping to run for the slide, you're gonna have to tear up those areas. So, and that's on on each of those options. So that's why you look at those costs for this, what we call the support facilities, which are like the sun decks, the shades, and the planters, landscape irrigation. Option 2 is looking at more green space and less shade, but then also incorporating a double body slide. One of the comments was, adding in that competition of having friends be able to race each other down to the bottom. I believe as an option that we can add as an add alternate are timing systems so that, you have the red light, the green light, so that they can go, if you've ever been to Six Flags or some of those other areas that have just adding more of that competition feature. That was one thing that was talked about there. Again, the kid pool, this is a larger zero depth area that creates more of that lagoon feel to the play feature. So yes, you still have a look at the sun deck for the parents to hang out on, which the sun deck incorporated into the pool is generally about 6 inches in. So it has, water loungers that when you sit down in them, your bottom end and maybe your feet are in the water, where your upper half and your knees are maybe poking out. So it adds that refreshment of the water, but also you get the enjoyment of the sun. And then smaller cabanas as well. One thing that we're looking at is also cabanas that can be multi-use, that we can be able to combine them, make them smaller for individual, or if there's a very large party that we can combine 2 of them, having those dividers through there. This does have the largest green space, which if you look at that area, the main time that is fully utilized is during our swim meet for individuals that have tents, different things, but they're also over here into the leisure pool. Concept B is coming in about $2,390,000. And then concept C, or option 3, is the one that in our discussions with Park Board, that we came back of looking at having more of like the shade from option 1, but also some of the design features, especially like the kid pool area of option 2. And so looking to keep it right around that budget of 2.4, that's why we're looking at one slide here, and then looking at the shade structures around the kids pool as well as the shade, and then having the opportunity for these lounge areas as well as bigger cabanas that can be rentable spaces towards the back of the pool that can also serve as rentable spaces when we have our swim meets. Those can become kind of the prime area for swim teams that we'll be able to charge for them if they don't want to bring their own tents and want to have one that's already there provided. Concept C is estimated to come in about $2,470,000. This was the recommendation by Park Board. One caveat that they wanted to look at was possibly having the option of having a double slide in there. One thing that we talked about with Park Hill is looking at the costs, and obviously, we know budget is very important, that with Park Hill and going into the master planning, that the addition call out for that slide would be roughly about 124,000 more than what is currently called out in concept C, just so that you have that.
So that would make it 2,690,000.
Currently, so the slide is currently called out in option C for 420,000.
Okay.
In option B, it is 524,000, which is 104,500. And where's that extra $20,000 that I added in there? Obviously, if you have a double slide, you're going to have more foundation work. So the line item right below the slide is that additional 20,000 for the foundation and structural side that will be called out to go to a double slide tower. And I do have James here with Park Hill. So with that, I'll open it up for questions and discussions and go from there.
Okay, we will open it for discussion, if you would like to do it that way. Is that right? Comment? Stacy, we'll start with you.
Time frame. If you shut the pool down, what does this look like?
So the goal is always to be able to get construction documents and the bids out. The goal on these projects are always to try and get that all completed before September. That September is the construction time. Now, depending on how we maneuver this, it could be looking at that or further down. But that would be our goal, is we never want to have that construction run over into a summer and miss out on that opportunity. So whether it would be this September or if it would be the following, and then we would do the construction for the 9 months that the pool is closed, and then be able to open up for that next season.
In a realistic world, is 9 months enough
Yeah,
to do full completion?
correct. Yeah, and the most recent one that Manager Wright and myself has done was we did a $7 million renovation of the Mosley Pool. And we started it was right after Labor Day. And we had a few delays, but we were able to get it open so we didn't have a miss of a season. And there are things that we can put in the general contractors to be able to meet those timeframes.
So on the various plans, you've got multiple shade spaces. What's the people count, like, under those spaces? Do you know?
So those spaces, from the small ones like you see in 7, those can be anywhere from 4 to 6, which are kind of your medium-sized family. And up here in this corner, you're looking more to that 10 to 15. And then the larger, I would say 15 to 25 for the larger spaces. And then like these picnic tables down here with shades, you're looking generally 4 people.
It's just a table with an umbrella?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
Anybody else comment? Rylan, you had something?
Oh, I can, but I can wait
You
for
don't
y'all.
have to.
Mine are
Anybody
pretty
else?
general, yeah.
Steve?
So obviously, one of the biggest cornerstones of this whole project is the slide. So the new slide. I'm interested, and maybe this is a Park Hill question. There must have been a lot of feedback about the desirability of a slide, right? Okay, so I get that. How many people at any point in time do we think would use this? I got the range of kids the age, but would it be 10 people, 20 people, 50 people? I'm trying to get a gauge on how popular this amenity would be.
James Williams with Park Hill. Good evening. As far as the amenity, I mean, it's constant use. As far as the kid goes down, the lifeguard clears for the next one to come down. It could be continuous. So I'm not completely sure how to give
Yeah, I'm
an
just
answer on
trying
that
to
one.
gauge the,
As one who visits our pool with said tweens, because it's the middle ground, they use the diving board as their playscape right now, because that's all they have. It is a constant rotation, so the pool uses the clock and a timer system, usually about 30 minutes. So they'll 30 minutes on the diving board, and it is a constant rotation of kids. Kid on, swims over to the side, next kid goes. And it's a full 30 minutes of nonstop. Then they take a break and let the lifeguards rotate, and then they go again. And it is a constant nonstop to get in that line. So I think this is gonna.
And generally with,
Yes.
with the
question
slides
about it.
our size of what we're proposing, you could think every 30 seconds that an individual, it's less than a 30-second ride. So you're talking about from start to getting out to when the other one goes. And this would be from when we open to the hours we close. So if we have a constant line, which all the slides that I've been in, besides and operated, besides our safety breaks, there's always, you just have those kids that will just come and run the stairs all day long.
If you ever want to get a good gauge, just go sit in the parking lot at the fire station at Roanoke and watch the back two body slides. It'll give you a great indication of that rotation of kids to watch what happens.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Okay, Dennis?
I got 3 items. One, the body slide, I just want to point out that that was not shown on any of the presentations given to any of the surveys or the presentations or the events we've had. But I think it's a great idea. 2, I'm concerned with the budget. You're getting over budget, and I don't like that, and I'm sorry, you need to keep it at 2.4 or less. I understand trees are being added, and that's not going to balance the budget, but trees are being added because people wanted shade. Well, you just added a lot of shade there with fabric shade, so you're balancing them, right? And I realize it's only like, if you took the trees out, you're talking about 15,000. That's not a big bunch, but you got to get it back into budget. And I would favor 2 slides, but I'm not interested in spending more than 2.4 mil. The other is I'm concerned, and Brandon's answered it, but I haven't been home all day, so I haven't looked at your answer, is you're adding stuff. What's that add to your budget? I mean, is this something, when Trophy Club first built the pool, they didn't put the budget for maintenance in the next year's budget.
Correct.
So there was a big tax talk about. What does this do to our long-term budget for your maintenance and your personnel? That's what I'm trying to get to.
So that was one thing that we really wanted to buckle down on and see. And so with this year's current budget book, you see that we've separated out the pool specifically for this purpose. Is that so we can look at this upcoming year and see what our exact expenditures are with personnel. As far as upping our personnel costs, we're looking at a couple more lifeguards to be able to facilitate this, because our pools are mainly staying the same, so those rotations will stay the same. The only additions that we're looking at are 2 lifeguards, one for the top of the slide, one at the bottom. The nice thing is that we can also not necessarily do it. We can do it with 1 guard and a slide attendant, because we're not dropping into a pool, that we can just have a lifeguard at the bottom of the slide and then a slide attendant, one of our cashiers, which we have enough of those that we're able to rotate up in that process. And as far as the maintenance, we're not really changing the amount of water because we're not having the slides go into its own pool. It is mainly the water that is circulated from the top of the slide is being reused from the bottom of the slide. So we're not looking at a large cost. We will have an increase in electricity usage during that 90 days of service. But overall, adding the slide isn't going to have that much of an impact to our operation when we're talking about electricity compared to what we're currently operating with the main pools. Because all during the year. The only time that we have water is in the kiddie pool and the lap pool to maintain the plaster in there. So those are the only two pools that we're using electricity throughout the year and chemicals to make sure those are maintained.
I have a couple things. Piggybacking off of what Dennis just brought up, for the slide specifically, what about contracts for ongoing sort of maintenance and safety inspections and things of that nature? Since it's a unique structure, it's different than what all else we have. I'm sure you'll need to have some sort of outside contract for someone to come through every couple of years or year or twice a year to look at it, do small repairs, things of that nature.
So the nice thing is with TML, we do have to have a yearly slide inspection because it is an amusement ride. And so they come out and they inspect a slide every year. As far as maintenance, the preventative maintenance is very important for us. When we look at either a closed slide or an open slide, which is like the half tube, obviously the closed slide is more what I would push for just because it helps protect from the sun, where an open slide, our staff is waxing and polishing it every year and a couple times a year just to maintain that surface is clean and operable. And again, as one of the strategic goals about our maintenance plan is then incorporating some of these structures and equipment into that because it can be a capital expense. But obviously, with something new, having a plan in place and being able to take care of those on a yearly basis is going to increase the longevity. And that's the goal of looking at this master plan, is to look at our maintenance and what we need to put in place to make sure that we can have this for another 25 to 30 years.
And everything else you guys have on all of these plans are things you already currently have and maintain and have, you already have processes for maintaining, except for in-water loungers, but I mean,
Yeah.
y'all can figure that one out. It's not that hard. So that was my question about that. Generally speaking, as it relates to the concepts, I like the direction that the Parks Board took because more shade is better. This was something, there's an old council meeting from 2016 or 17 where those three things on the far right, those three shade to beg for those three on the far right on the other pool. Like about the splash pad.
Oh, right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Y'all-
Sorry.
I think if I hadn't begged for those, I was like, look, guys, I'm the only one, at the time, I'm the only person that's ever been out here. Trust me, we need shade. So that was cool. I like that. I appreciate that. I totally agree with Dennis. I think let's try to find a way to nibble around the edges to get into budget. Just because the contingencies are there for a reason and then, they may all get used up. We know how that goes. Then the only other thing is I have to ask, when we look at our table of costs, and looking through everything, I mean, I've never built a slide, so I can't really price out a slide, there's concrete, there's pumps, there's things, all these things make sense. We have dirt work expressed in lump sum, all those things make sense. We have linear feet, square footage. I have to find out why we have a $300,000 pump house. It's expressed here in a lump sum, and I suspect that's because we don't want us to easily calculate the unit cost per square foot. A $300,000 pump house. Is it that you guys just don't want to build a pump house and you're hoping we drop that? Are there municipalities out there that take a quote like that and go, sure, that's wild, man. $300,000 pump house.
Can I make a correction? How about 385,000?
Yeah.
Oh, sure, right,
I'm
well,
sorry,
yes.
but okay.
I was
my
looking at the unit
question
cost.
is,
Yeah, good point.
That's not part of this
No.
presentation.
No.
But so why is it
So
shown on your budget, and do we have any say on it in the future?
Yes. So this is an option that we have a say on anytime that we look at this. Because one thing that we looked as operators, chlorine is highly toxic. If you've ever been around it, especially liquid chlorine, and looking at the safety and the operation of that area, currently, I'll come to this concept right here, which by Texas code, we adhere to Texas code. It does not generally call out that these containers need to be in a closed-in space. That national code, it is encouraged to have the tanks and everything away from community contact. If you go out to the pool here in the parking lot, you can see that I believe it's a little over a 500-gallon liquid chlorine tank is just here on the other side on a concrete pad outside the wall of the pump house. And now our lifeguards know about it. We train them that if you ever see any kids heading over that way, to go stop them.
Okay, but how many square feet are these enclosures?
So when we're
Are we building a sarcophagus for a nuclear reactor, or
Correct.
are we enclosing something for a reasonable cost?
So one thing that we wanted to
We
talk
all know
about.
chlorine's toxic. What's the square footage on these enclosures?
Correct. So I don't have that square footage right now, but as we're looking at this space and we start designing the square footage and getting down to those specifics, we're looking at our overall budget. So as we have, and this is one reason why we're doing this in a two-phase contract, is so that we can come back to you guys multiple times as we get the construction documents drawn up with what type of materials we're needing to use, as well as the square footages, and then being able to get closer to that budget. And we know our budget is 2.4 million. And so we've had lengthy discussions of, we know that's what the limit is. So as we master plan this and look at the features, what can we do to whittle that down to make sure that, like the pickleball, that we come right on the budget where we need to?
But to that point, I know we're all harping on the same thing, you're never going to be able to get to 2.4 by adding that.
No.
I mean, you just can't.
No.
I mean, so I get
Here's
that.
all I want to know.
on.
Here's all I want to know. I want to know the square footage of the enclosures. I want to know the building materials, and I want to know the per square foot cost of whatever you got to spray on masonry to make it chlorine resistant. And I want to know why it's costing 400 grand, because either you guys don't want to build it, or you have a lot of clients that don't look at this stuff in detail. And these are the kind of things that make our jobs harder when we sit up here, because lay folks look at this and go, what's your cost per square foot?
Okay,
Yeah,
Brandon, would you like to say
yeah,
something?
I'll clarify. We're not, as part of this project, we're not including that structure. So we have the cost, whatever it is. We're not going to design it. We're not going to build it on this point. That is now a future conversation.
It's not an
of-
immediate.
Correct, exactly. What do we want to do? What's the appropriate level
whittle it down.
of enclosing on that part? I tend to agree with you. That is a lot of money to spend for that particular component. You know, we'll look at other options for what that might be for it. So my recommendation would be just ignore that part for now, right? It's on the details. It's good to know that we've looked into it, that we've kind of found out what that part is. It's not something we're going to include as this project here for that 2.4 million. It's something that we know of, and it doesn't make much sense to design something that we don't think is worth that cost anyway for it. So we'll figure out what our other alternatives might be in that area, in that space.
Okay, I have a
Greece
question,
Homes
please.
is 325 a square foot, and you can get them to build it for 60,000.
Okay, I have a question, please, Chase. When you look on concept C, and you look at the slide, which cost $420,000.
Yes, ma'am.
And you go to concept A, and you look at the slide, which is 300, am I right? Yeah, 312,000. Now, when you look at the slide pictures,
Yep.
this slide picture on C, I'm not a slide person, is smaller than the slide picture on A. So why don't we take slide A, put it on C, and you're going to reduce cost?
So one of the things to remember, also,
Thank you.
we're looking at the space that we're in of allocating for that slide. Again, we'll be talking about varying heights, which as you go higher will add more costs. If you're taking up more area, more pad area, length also adds more cost or can shorten cost. We know what the current budget is, and so the goal of what we're looking at right now is in that space, like concept A, are you liking that slide being more drawn out? Or are you liking in concept C where that slide might be taller and have more spins and turns, but isn't taking up as much landscape? And then we know what our allowance will be for that slide. But again, this is at our 20,000-foot view. We haven't gotten into, this is, what you see on here is exactly, when we put the slide in, you're like, wait, it only has 4 turns, not 3 turns like what was in the photo. We will have better concepts as we get into the construction drawings of knowing exactly how many turns that's called out for, how tall that is, what the runouts are. And then it'll be able to have more of a finite look of what that cost per, foot is, things like that. Now,
Of all the variables, that's
Yes.
where you need to focus. That's
Correct.
what we're saying.
That's
Because
$100,000.
I mean,
No,
if you're
not
gonna get
quite
to,
that close.
you're gonna get to 2.4. That's the area to look at. Is
Mm-hmm.
it higher, is it shorter, is it longer, whatever? And you kind of back into what can we do
correct.
to get to 2.4? And that's your biggest opportunity, I think.
Well, would A go where C is, in the C concept?
So if you look at A,
That slide.
yep, so option C, we're adding more shade around the kid pool. Where if option A, that slide is moving more into that shade area. And so that was one of those things that we took from Park Board of saying, well, we like the slide, but we also want to maintain that shade. And so, and we're going to have to redesign with all these comments. Tonight is just giving us a general idea going forward of what approach you want us to take forward.
Approach being A, B, or C?
Correct.
Or all the comments that you've heard to include into a final approach, i.e. C?
Correct.
Because that is the recommendation the Park Board recommended.
Correct.
And so I would like for us to stay with concept C to make it be, include the comments made here. That, are y'all in agreement with that? I mean,
Yeah, like I said, the park board
the
was
park-
right. They
They made
discussed
the
it.
decision, yeah.
I do
It's a
too.
nice concept.
Yes.
I do too, and I will add, I think, obviously, y'all pointed out that that slide's more expensive than the one on option A, but the smaller footprint has benefits too, and so,
Yeah.
y'all are gonna be, on the drawing board on several aspects of this, no matter what. So, I agree with C. I love shade, and I love
I do
being on
too.
budget, so,
The sun shines
yeah.
I have a question.
heavy and hot. Yes, go ahead.
2, actually. Well, 3, because one's to Brandon. 1, so going back to what Dennis said, the opposite of that, you put something like this in place, and he was asking about increase in budget and things like that. You put something like this in place, in your opinion, has that brought in more money, to offset some of that? When you put in structures and other playthings, does that help bring in more dollars?
Yeah, anytime you do enhancements to an area, it will bring in more individuals, which when we looked at the respondents, because the pool currently is only open to residents, it wasn't surprising that 99% of individuals were Trophy Club residents. I believe one of them had actually just come with a Trophy Club resident, which is what threw off our, instead of 100%, as a guest pass. But as we do these, there's that excitement. So I can see that right off the bat, we would see an increase in revenues. And then our goal is to be able to find where we as a town are willing to keep that subsidy for the pool as well as look as those fees. And that's one thing that we're doing through the master plan is looking at cost recovery and what we can establish as a town to be able to look at those fees and justify how much do we want to subsidize this, how much do we want to have as revenue goals. And if we're looking to make more or pull in more revenue so the subsidy is less coming from the town, these added features would help with that. But I will say that aquatics is one of those things that the community wants to see, but they're not income generating. They are an amenity that we provide. And so our goal is to get us close to the national average. That the goal, cost recovery and subsidy is, to recover anywhere from 40% to 80%. And that's the national average. And our goal is to be able to improve this enough that we can meet somewhere in that.
Yeah, and 40% to 80% is a massive range. Always be careful of expecting anything relative to a parks asset or a rec program bringing in money that matters. Ultimately, we have to measure it and the value it delivers to the residents. That's
But Stacy's comment's very
Always.
appropriate.
Right.
And you've answered it properly.
Right.
That you
Right,
have.
and that's what guides.
But it is something that's on the radar. That's-
Yeah, and that's what guides my
one
thinking
president
on
got
that
one.
is like, is I expect all of these to be loss leaders. I expect Chase to give us a recovery goal and give us ideas for trying to figure out how to meet his recovery goals, because Brandon's telling him how much he can or can't spend every year. And then we just go from there. But I would also say that when this facility was first built in 2011, there was a more loose policy relative to non-residents, and that was closed up about 5 years later as a result of really heavy feedback from the residents to try and beat back some of the crowds. So I don't want to go back the other way.
Yes, my second question, sorry. Talk to me about insurance. When you add the aspect of a slide, does that add insurance? And what that cost annually is to the town, because now we've added a risk factor? And is there an issue there, or do we need to budget for extra insurance?
So with the insurance, obviously you add in more equipment and more risk there. The nice thing is body slides are less risk than having another body, a pool area that they drop into. Now, it will increase it a little bit. By how much, I don't know. We'd have to,
I would like to know
look at that.
cost at some point, because, you're looking at budget, and Dennis will probably agree here, like, that's a full factor, holistic view of what that looks like. And so what is the insurance, when you start putting that in play, what does that do for that? A third question is more towards Brandon. Do we have any wiggle room in the budget, or is it set for what it is? Last week when we talked, you're like, we have all this money. Is there any wiggle room at all?
Yeah, and it really, that's a council question on that one, right? Right, and I'll just kind of say the process we've used, right, you've kind of set, and many years before, in fact, you actually decided what you were doing with this project. There was a $4 million price tag associated with it, and then kind of go and build, right, on that part. From a cash perspective, from a fund balance perspective, the town is doing very, very well. Is there capital money available in the tune of several $100,000 to be able to contribute to this project? There is. It's a priority question for the council as to whether or not that budget wants to be increased for this or not. So as long as you tell me that the budget is 2.4, the budget is 2.4 on it, right? That's just a statement you make and direction the council provides.
Well,
If you
I can
decide
tell you
that,
from my perspective, that's the number.
Correct.
right?
If you say it goes up, then it goes
Rather
up.
than anticipate
Yep.
finding more money to do something, 2.4 is the number. Let's work on getting it to 2.4. That's what you're doing.
Yep.
This is no news to you, Chase. This is what you've been
Yep.
working on.
Correct.
The only thing I want to say is last opinion, as a parent, as a mom to boys that are going to use this pool with friends and family and that sort of thing, I don't want to be in the business of putting together a half pool situation. I don't want to say we spent $2.4 million and you've got just a minimal upgrade. If we're going to do something, let's do it right and do it worth doing, so that the residents that ask for this, it's worth coming to. So I don't want to skimp too much. I want to give them something to be proud of. I want them something for our residents to enjoy. So, that's just a personal, let's do it right if we're going to do it.
And I expect that the park board is working to do this right. So I encourage you to continue. We'll make a motion here to, is there a motion before we go forward? Is there a motion to?
Are we motioning,
I
or
think
are
we
we giving
need,
advice?
I thought, Brandon and I talked about, I thought we needed a motion to.
Yeah, a motion directing staff
Yeah.
to, proceed with, with concept C, right?
Correct.
whether or not you'd like us to look into the double slide option or
Yes.
not.
I'd like to,
And the, and making sure that within the 2.4 budget, or is it more? Or just things
like
like
to
that
make
would
a
be very
motion.
helpful.
Okay, go
Mayor?
for it, Dennis.
okay, that we have staff work on concept C. Stay within budget, 2.4. Look at adding the second slide somehow or other within the budget.
We could save on trees. How much are trees?
Well,
15,000.
let them figure that.
We'll figure that
This
out.
is not, this is,
We-
yeah.
Dennis, I'll
I'll
second Dennis'
I can get you
motion.
some trees.
Wait a minute, we're out of order.
We have a motion.
Out of order.
Motion
Out of
on the
order.
floor.
We have a motion, we need a second.
Yes,
Steve
Steve's got a
seconds.
second.
Now we can talk.
Now you may speak. Stacy,
I'm just
anything
saying
you
we
want to
can
say?
cut cost on trees. We don't need to pay 15,000 for trees.
We
Well-
understand the budget's 2.4 million.
That's correct.
And we will make those adjustments based on this concept to be able to make that happen.
Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, motion passes.
Appreciate y'all. Thanks.
Good luck to you.
Jason,
Thank
you're
you.
gonna be dreaming 2.4, 2.4, 2.4.
We don't need a motion to adjourn, do we?
It is
Boom.
8:21. We are adjourned.
Good job, Jake.